Minji Kim pushed her cleaning cart down the long metal corridors of Nexus Station. The wheels squeaked softly as she moved from room to room. She had been doing this job for 3 years now. Ever since she turned 18, her father Dongyan worked here too. He started as a janitor 20 years ago, just like her. Now, he was the maintenance chief, but the engineers still looked at him like he was nobody special. The engineering bay was always busy. Big machines hummed and beeped all round her. Screens showed numbers and graphs that most people couldn't understand. But Minji could. She had been watching and learning for years. When the engineers weren't looking, she would study their work. She read their books when they left them on tables. She listened to everything they said. Today felt different. The engineers seemed more worried than usual. Their voices were louder. Chief Engineer Woo Jin Park kept walking back and forth, running his hands through his hair. The other engineers, Hyun-woo, Tae-yeon, and Ji-hoon, sat at their computers looking. Frustrated, Minji cleaned the floors near their workstation. She tried to look busy, but she was really listening to what they were saying. They were talking about the primary quantum engine. It had been broken for 10 years. Many smart people had tried to fix it. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. This is impossible, Woo Jin said, throwing his hands up. We've tried everything. Every test comes back normal. Every part looks fine. But the engine won't start. Hyun-woo shook his head. Maybe we should just give up. 10 years is long enough. The station board won't let us, Tae-yeon replied. They spend too much money on that engine. They want it working. Minji stopped cleaning. She had been thinking about this engine for months. Every day she walked past it. Every day she saw the engineers scratching their heads. She had an idea about what might be wrong. It was something simple that they might have missed. The harmonic resonance patterns were wrong. She had noticed it in the old maintenance reports. The engine frequency was slightly off. It was like trying to tune a guitar string. If it wasn't exactly right, it wouldn't make music. The engine wouldn't make power. The harmonic resonance patterns suggest. Minji started to say. All four engineers turned to look at her. Their faces showed surprise and anger. Woo Jin's face turned red like a tomato. His eyes got very narrow. Excuse me, Woo Jin said in a loud voice. Did the janitor's daughter just try to lecture us about quantum mechanics? The other three engineers started laughing. It wasn't nice laughter. It was the kind of laughter that made people feel small and stupid. Hyun-woo pointed at her cleaning cart. Tae-yeon shook his head like she had said something crazy. Ji-hoon just kept giggling. Are you serious right now? Woo Jin continued. You clean floors. You empty trash cans. You don't know anything about engineering. Minji felt her face getting hot. Her heart started beating faster. She wanted to explain her idea. She wanted to tell them about the frequency problem. But they weren't listening. They were just laughing at her. Stick to emptying trash bins, kid. Woo Jin said with a mean smile. Leave the engineering to people who actually went to the academy. People who have degrees. People who know what they're talking about. The other engineers nodded. They all had expensive educations. They all had certificates on their walls. They had studied at the best schools in the galaxy. How could a janitor's daughter know something they didn't? Yeah, Hyun-woo added. We didn't spend 3 years studying just to get advice from the cleaning lady. Maybe she learned about quantum mechanics from her mom. Tae-yeon joked. This made them laugh even harder. Minji's cheeks burned with shame. She felt tears starting to form in her eyes. But she wouldn't let them see her cry. She grabbed her cleaning cart and started pushing it away from them. That's right. Woo Jin called after her. Go back to work. Do what you're good at." Their laughter followed her down 3 days after the engineers laughed at her. Minji was cleaning the windows in Corridor 7 when the alarm started. Red lights flashed everywhere. A loud siren made her ears hurt. Her heart jumped in her chest. The station's computer voice spoke through the speakers. "Emergency alert. All personnel report to stations. This is not a drill." People started running. In the hallways, engineers, pilots, and maintenance workers all moved quickly. Their faces looked scared. Minji had never seen everyone so worried before. She left her cleaning cart and ran to find her father. The alarms kept ringing. The red lights kept flashing. Through the big windows, she could see space rocks floating toward the station. Lots of them. They looked like a giant cloud of death moving closer and closer. The asteroids were huge. Some were as big as buildings. Others were small like cars. But there were thousands of them. They were all heading straight for a Nexus station. If they hit, everyone would die. Minji found her father Dongyun in the maintenance office. He was sitting at his desk looking at papers. His hair was messy. His eyes looked very tired. There were coffee cups everywhere. He had been working all night. "Dad, what's happening?" Minji asked. Dongyun looked up at his daughter. The asteroid field changed direction. Nobody knows why. Maybe a gravity wave from a distant star. Maybe something else. It doesn't matter now. They're coming right at us. Can't we move the station? We're trying. The backup engines are working. But they're not strong enough. They're getting hot. If we push them too hard, they'll break. Then we'll have no power at all. Minji sat down in the chair across from her father's desk. "What about the primary engine?" Dongyun shook his head. "Still dead. The engineers are working on it right now. They've been in there for 6 hours. Nothing's changed." Through the office window, Minji could see the engineering bay. All the lights were on. She could see Woojin and his team running round with tools and computers. They looked desperate. They kept checking the same things over and over again. "How much time do we have?" Minji asked. "Maybe 8 hours, maybe less. The evacuation ships are being prepared. But there aren't enough for everyone. And they're not fast enough to get away from all the asteroids." Minji's stomach felt sick. Her mother Sunny had died when Minji was 15. A disease that the doctors couldn't cure. Now she might lose her father too. She might lose everyone. On the station, "Dad," she said quietly, "I know what's wrong with the engine." Dongyun stopped reading his papers. He looked at his daughter with surprise. "What do you mean?" "I've been thinking about it for months. I listen to the engineers every day. I've read their reports. I know why it won't start." Her father stared at her. Minji looked so much like her mother right now. Sunny had been the smartest person he ever knew. She could solve problems that made doctors give up. She could see things that others missed. Minji had the same look in her eyes that Sunny got when she was figuring out something important. "The engineers have been trying for 10 years, Dongyun said slowly. "They're looking in the wrong place. They keep checking the big parts, the computers, the power systems, but the problem is smaller than that. Much smaller. Tell me." Minji leaned forward. "It's the harmonic resonance frequency. The engine vibrates at the wrong speed. It's like trying to sing a song in the wrong key. All the notes are there, but they don't work together." Dongyun had worked with machines his whole life. He understood how things needed to work together perfectly. If one part was even slightly wrong, the whole system could fail. "How do you know this?" "I've been reading the old maintenance logs. From before the engine broke. The frequency was different then. Something changed it. Something small. The engineers keep looking for big problems. But this is tiny. So tiny their big tests can't see it. Her father was quiet for a long time outside. The alarms kept ringing, the red lights kept flashing. The asteroids kept getting closer. Even if you're right, he said finally, they won't listen to you. You saw what happened 3 days ago. I don't need them to listen. I need to get into the engine room. I need to see it myself. I need to touch it and feel how it's working. Dongyan looked at the evacuation papers on his desk. Then he looked at his daughter. She had her mother's intelligence. She had her mother's determination. Maybe she had her mother's ability to do impossible things. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small plastic card, his master access card. It could open any door on the station, even the engine room. If you're wrong, he said. We all die anyway. If I'm right, Minji said. I can save everyone. Dongyan handed her the card. His hand was shaking a little. Show me. He whispered. Minji took the card and stood up. Through the window, she could see the asteroids getting bigger. Time was running out, but for the first time in 3 days, she felt hoped. She was going to prove that being smart had nothing to do with fancy schools. It had everything to do with paying attention and caring enough to find the truth. The engine room was huge and dark when Minji slipped inside. She used her father's card to open the heavy metal door. The room was as big as a school gym, filled with pipes and wires and machines. In the center sat the primary quantum engine. It was quiet and cold. It had been sleeping for 10 years. Most of the station was asleep now. It was 3 in the morning. The day shift engineers had gone home tired and frustrated. They had worked for 12 hours straight and found nothing. The engine was still broken. The asteroids were still coming. Minji turned on her flashlight and walked toward the engine. Her footsteps echoed in the big room. She had borrowed some tools from the maintenance shop. A harmonic analyzer that her father used to check air systems. Some old computer tablets that could measure tiny vibrations. Equipment that the fancy engineers thought was too simple to be useful. She climbed up on the engine platform. The quantum resonance chamber was in the middle, surrounded by cooling pipes and power cables. It looked perfect from the outside, shiny and new, but Minji knew that looks could lie. She connected her harmonic analyzer to the chamber. The little screen lit up with numbers and graphs. Most people would see random data, but Minji had been studying these patterns for years. She knew what normal looked like. This was not normal. The frequency was wrong, just slightly, like a guitar string that was almost in tune, but not quite. The difference was so small that the big expensive computers couldn't detect it. But it was there. Minji traced the vibration patterns with her finger on the tablet screen. The chamber should vibrate evenly in all directions. Instead, there was a weak spot, a place where the vibrations were different. She climbed down and walked round the chamber, checking different spots with her analyzer. There, on the backside, near the bottom, the readings were strange. The metal was vibrating wrong. Something was broken inside, but it was too small to see with normal eyes. She pulled out another tool. An old ultrasonic scanner that maintenance used to check for cracks in pipes. The engineers probably thought it was junk, but Minji knew it could see things that their fancy equipment missed. She pressed the scanner against the chamber wall and moved it slowly. The screen showed the inside of the metal. Most of it looked solid and strong. But in one small spot, there was a line, a tiny crack, thinner than a human hair. It ran from the outside wall almost to the center of the chamber. Minji's heart started, beating faster. This was it. This was what had been killing the engine for 10 years. The crack was so small that nobody had found it. But it was enough to throw off the whole system. She studied the crack pattern on her screen. It hadn't happened all at once. This was slow damage. Year after year, the chamber had been under stress. The crack had grown slowly, like a wound that never healed. The Academy engineers had been looking for big obvious problems, broken computers, failed power systems, missing parts. They never thought to look for something this tiny. They had fancy degrees and expensive equipment, but they had missed the most important thing. Minji climbed back onto the platform and started working. She couldn't fix the crack directly. The chamber was sealed and pressurized. Opening it would take days and special tools, but she could work around it. She traced the power cables with her hands. The engine had backup systems, ways to reroute power if something went wrong. The original designers had been smart. They had planned for problems, but they hadn't planned for this specific problem. Using her father's tools, Minji started disconnecting cables. She moved power from the damaged section to the healthy parts of the chamber. It was like performing surgery on a sleeping giant. One wrong move could damage everything. Her hands were steady. She had been watching her father fix things since she was little. She had learned by doing, not by reading books. She understood how machines felt when they were working right. She connected bypass modules from old broken equipment, parts that the engineers had thrown away because they were obsolete. But old didn't mean useless. Sometimes old parts were stronger than new ones. Hours passed. Minji's back hurt from bending over the engine. Her hands were dirty with grease and dust. But she kept working. Outside, the asteroids were getting closer. People were probably packing evacuation bags. But she couldn't think about that now. She had to trust her hands. Trust her understanding of how things worked. The chamber needed to vibrate at exactly the right frequency. Every cable had to carry exactly the right amount of power. Everything had to work together perfectly. Finally, she stepped back and looked at her work. Cables ran in new directions. Bypass modules hummed quietly. The chamber looked different now. Not cleaner or prettier, but it looked right. Minji picked up her harmonic analyzer one more time. She pressed it against the chamber and watched the screen. The frequency was better. Not perfect yet, but much closer to where it should be. She had found the problem that had stumped the best engineers in the sector. A crack so small it was almost invisible. Now she had to see if her solution would work. The hallway. It echoed off the metal walls. Even after she couldn't hear them anymore, the sound stayed in her head. She felt angry and hurt and frustrated all at the same time. She pushed her cart into the supply closet and sat down on a box. For a few minutes, she just sat there feeling sorry for herself. Then she got angry. Really angry. They thought she was stupid just because she cleaned floors. They thought her father was nobody just because he fixed broken things instead of designing new ones. But Minji knew something they didn't know. She had been studying their work for years. She understood how things worked. She had ideas that might help. Good ideas. Ideas that could solve their 10-year-old problem. She stood up and grabbed her cleaning supplies. She would show them. Somehow. She would prove that being smart had nothing to do with where you went to school. It had everything to do with paying attention and thinking hard about problems. The engineers thought they were so much better than her. Soon, they would learn they were wrong. Minji wiped the sweat from her forehead and looked at the final connection. One last cable needed to be attached. Her hands were shaking a little from being tired, but she forced them to be steady. This was the most important moment. She took the power cable and slowly connected it to the bypass module. As soon as the connection clicked into place, something magical happened. A small light on the engine panel turned from red to yellow. Then another light. Then another. The engine chamber started to hum. It was very quiet at first, like a cat purring. But the sound grew stronger, deeper. The whole room began to vibrate gently. Dust fell from the ceiling. tools on the workbench started to rattle. Minji stepped back and watched in amazement. The quantum resonance chamber was glowing now. A soft, blue light came from inside the metal walls. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The engine was waking up after sleeping for 10 years. More lights came on across the control panels. Green lights. Good lights. The harmonic analyzer in her hands showed perfect readings. The frequency was exactly right now. All the vibrations were working together like a beautiful song. The humming sound got louder and deeper. It filled the whole room. Minji could feel it in her chest, in her bones. This was the sound of pure power. The sound of success. She had done it. She had actually done it. The engine that the smartest engineers in the sector couldn't fix was running again. And she had fixed it with old tools and thrown away parts. What the hell do you think you're doing? The angry voice made Minji jump. She turned round and saw Chief Engineer Woojin standing in the doorway. His face was red like a tomato. No, redder. It was purple now. Behind him stood Hyunwoo, Taeyeon, and Jihoon. They all looked shocked and angry. "Get away from that equipment before you kill us all," Woojin shouted. He ran toward the engine controls. His eyes were wide with panic. "You have no idea what you're messing with. The resonance chamber needed." Minji started to explain. "I don't want to hear it," Woojin screamed. He was so angry that spit flew from his mouth. "You're just a janitor. You don't know anything about quantum engines." He reached for the big red emergency shutdown button. His finger was inches away from it. If he pressed it, the engine would stop. All of Minji's work would be wasted. The station would still be in danger. But Minji was faster, while Woojin was yelling. She had moved to the startup controls. She pressed the sequence of buttons that would fully activate the engine. The buttons glowed green under her fingers. "No." Woojin shouted. "Stop." Too late. The engine roared to life like a sleeping dragon waking up. The humming sound became a powerful thrumming that shook the entire room. The blue glow from the resonance chamber became brighter and brighter. Every screen in the room lit up with numbers and graphs. The readings were incredible, better than incredible. They were perfect. The engine wasn't just working. It was working, better than it ever had before. Hyunwoo stared at his tablet computer. His mouth hung open. "The power output is... This can't be right." "Check your readings again," Taeyeon said in a shaky voice. He was looking at his own tablet. "Mine shows the same thing." Jihoon dropped his tablet completely. It clattered on the metal floor. "The efficiency ratings are off the charts. This is impossible." The engine kept getting stronger. The thrumming sound was like music now, deep and powerful and beautiful. All the lights in the chamber were bright green. Every system was running perfectly. Woojin stood frozen by the emergency button. His finger was still reaching for it, but he couldn't press it now. The readings on his tablet were too good, too perfect. If he shut down the engine now, he would look like an idiot. "How?" he whispered. "How did you?" Minji stood by the control panel, watching the perfect readings scroll across the screens. The engine was running at 112% efficiency. That should have been impossible. But she had done more than just fix the crack. Her bypass modifications had actually improved the whole system. The harmonic resonance frequency was wrong. She said quietly. There was a microscopic crack in the chamber wall. It was throwing off the quantum field alignment. "That's impossible," Woojin said, but his voice had no strength in it. "Our scanners would have detected any structural damage. Your scanners were looking for big problems. This was tiny, smaller than anything your equipment could see." The other engineers were still staring at their tablets. The readings kept getting better. The engine was not only fixed, It was upgraded. It was running smoother and more efficiently than the day it was first built. Alarms started going off throughout the station. But these were good alarms. The backup engines were shutting down because they weren't needed anymore. The primary engine was providing all the power the station required, more than enough power to move away from the asteroid's dot through the chamber windows. Minji could see people in the corridors. They were looking round in confusion. The emergency lights had stopped flashing. The evacuation alarms had gone quiet. Nexus Station was safe. Woojin looked at Minji with an expression she had never seen before. It wasn't anger or disgust. It was something like respect and fear. The janitor's daughter had just saved everyone. News traveled fast through space. Within 6 hours, every station and ship in the sector had heard the story. The dead engine on Nexus Station was not just running again. It was running better than anyone thought possible. And the person who fixed it was a janitor's daughter. Communication screens lit up across the galaxy. Engineers on distant planets called their friends. Ship captains told their crews. University professors stopped their classes to talk about what had happened. Everyone wanted to know how a girl with no formal training had solved a problem that stumped the experts. The readings from the engine were shared on every scientific network. 112% efficiency, perfect harmonic resonance, 0 power fluctuations. The numbers were so good that some people thought they were fake. But they weren't fake. The engine was really running that well. Minji's modifications hadn't just fixed the crack. They had made the whole system better. Her bypass design was so clever that quantum engineers across the galaxy were studying it. 2 days after the engine started, a military transport ship arrived at Nexus Station. It was big and sleek and important looking, the kind of ship that carried very important people. Admiral Somanli stepped off the transport with her team of technical experts. She was a small woman with grey hair and sharp eyes. She had been designing starship engines for 30 years. She had written textbooks that students studied at universities. If she was here. This was serious. Minji was cleaning the corridors. When the Admiral arrived, she watched through the windows as the important people walked through the station. Everyone was bowing and shaking hands and acting very formal. Minji Kim. Her father said, finding her by the windows. The Admiral wants to meet you. Minji's stomach felt nervous. She had never talked to anyone that important before. What does she want? To see what you did. To understand how you fixed the engine. They walked to the engineering bay together. The Admiral was standing by the engine controls with her team. Chief Engineer Woojin was there too, talking very fast and gesturing with his hands. He was trying to explain the technical details, but he looked confused and nervous. Oh. The Admiral said when she saw Minji, "You must be the young engineer who solved our mystery." "I am not an engineer," Minji said quietly. "I'm just a janitor." The Admiral smiled. "I've seen your work. You're definitely an engineer. You just haven't been to school yet." She led Minji to the engine controls. All the screens still showed perfect readings. The engine was humming smoothly in the background. It had been running perfectly for 2 days without any problems. "Show me what you did," the Admiral said. Minji explained about the microscopic crack, about the wrong harmonic frequency, about using old equipment to create new solutions. The Admiral listened carefully, asking smart questions. Her team took notes and made recordings. When Minji finished explaining, the Admiral was quiet for a long time. She looked at the engine readings again. She studied the bypass modifications. She talked quietly with her technical team. Finally, she turned back to Minji. Her eyes showed something that Minji had never seen from an important person before. Respect, Miss Kim. The Admiral said formally, "The Imperial Engineering Academy on Earth would be honored to have you as a student. full scholarship, full support. You could be designing starship engines within 5 years. Earth, the most important planet in human space. The Academy was the best engineering school in the galaxy. Students came from everywhere to study there, and they wanted her. Minji looked at her father. He was crying a little bit, but he was smiling, too. He looked proud and happy and sad all at the same time. "What about Dad?" Minji asked. "There are always positions available for experienced maintenance personnel," the Admiral said. Good maintenance chiefs are hard to find. Before Minji could answer, Chief Engineer Wujin stepped forward. His face was red again, but not from anger this time, from embarrassment. "Admiral," he said in a shaky voice, "I should mention that I've been mentoring Miss Kim's development. I always saw great potential in her. I've been encouraging her. Studies and—" The Admiral looked at him with cold eyes. She had read the reports. She knew exactly what had happened 3 days ago. "Is that so?" "Oh yes," Wujin continued, sweating now. "I've always believed that talent can come from anywhere. I've been personally guiding her education in quantum mechanics and—" "Dad," Minji said, interrupting the lies. "Ready to see the stars." Her father smiled. "I've been ready my whole life." 6 months later, Minji sat in a classroom on Earth surrounded by the smartest students in the galaxy. But she wasn't intimidated. She had already proven that being smart had nothing to do with where you came from or what school you attended. Her professors were amazed by her practical knowledge. While other students memorized formulas from books, Minji understood how things actually worked. She could feel when a design was right or wrong. Within a year, she was working on advanced propulsion research. Within 2 years, she was leading her own team. The engines she designed were more efficient and more reliable than anything that had come before. The girl who used to clean floors was now building the engines that would carry humanity to distant stars. She had proven that true genius comes from understanding and determination, not from fancy degrees or expensive schools. And late at night, when she looked up at the stars through her laboratory window, she remembered the engine that had been sleeping for 10 years, the engine that taught her that impossible problems just needed someone brave enough to find simple solutions. The end.